as a challenge to me, having less than 3 hours of sleep, let's see what I can come with for you. So please be gentle. But without further ado, welcome. This is the first time I've ever given a panel quite like this. I've given presentations on various aspects of the history of voice acting, voiceover, but not one that's quite as all-encompassing as this. For those who don't know me, my name is Greg Hauser. I'm a voice actor. I'm from Philadelphia. I do a lot of commercial work. I have done stuff for Disney, Lockheed Martin, CBS, NBA, the MLB, for anime and video games. I will sum up my career like this. Oh, hey guys, how we all doing? Is that a bomb? That's pretty much it. I play a lot of characters who die real quick. I am Soldier A. I am told it's because of my versatility. Honest to God, I think it's because the directors don't like me. So it's how can we find new and unique ways to kill Greg?
Thank you for your sacrifice, red shirt.
Thank you. Here to serve. Now, in addition to that, one of the things folks may not know about me, and this is why I study the history of this, I am an engineer. I have degrees in engineering, computer engineering, mechanical engineering are undergrads, information science and technology. I have graduate degrees in acoustical engineering, electrical engineering, and trusted computing. I am a 2-time Edison Award winner. For those who don't know what an Edison Award is, it's when you invent something that's really, really cool. The last one I got was in 2012 for a device called Monax. That's what I do. It's always fun when we go down the line because everyone has these really, really impressive acting credentials, and then I'm like the weird one.
But we're in a good way.
Yes!
Tell
Keeping
that.
it weird.
Oh yeah. And this is where the science part comes in, because if anyone ever tells you to act normal, tell them no, because a synonym for normal is stagnant. Anyone who's chemistry, especially a chemistry nerd, they know this.
There's a reason Bob Newhart kept the stutter.
Yeah.
Now, without further ado,
We're unique, like all of you. Or is it you're unique? Ugh, Dan, what's that? Tell me what that is. You're unique, just like all of us. There you go.
everyone else. Everybody else. So
My day job.
So how about these lovely folks who are far more interesting than I am introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Well, before we do that, what is a Modac?
Okay, Monax.
A Monax.
Okay, Monax is actually a series of communication devices. The general concept is this. It was designed for disaster purposes. And the small one is approximately the size of a suitcase. The large one you can fit in the back of a pickup truck. The idea is that in a disaster scenario, what is one of the first things that we lose? And that, bingo. Electricity, but communications. Your critical infrastructure, you're absolutely right. And electricity, communications, rule of law, transportation, water. Those are the things. But communication is one of the first. And it's one of the most important. Why? Because how else can the people trying to rescue us and help us coordinate? It gets even more interesting because a lot of times these first responders, they don't use the same types of communication equipment, especially if they are coming from all over the country or world to help us. This device takes care of this, because if you lose your, your plain old telephone system, it doesn't matter. It can actually act as a switch to replace that. You lose your cellular, doesn't matter. It can do that too. Hey, we completely lost everything. That's fine. It'll connect to a satellite and re-bridge all of it. Oh, you can't even do that? That's fine. It'll do shortwave radio. The only thing it doesn't do is telegraph.
Very cool. That's awesome. And yeah.
So it does semaphore?
Actually, yes. It actually can work with mechanical semaphore. Have we tried it just once as a joke? And simply because it is based on operational technology, so it actually does have an analog output, which if you're familiar with the original telegraph machines, they were actually semaphore telegraph. They actually were big metal arms that used a series of 96 different positions in order to generate characters or phrases. Well, those were based on electrical signals. These can manipulate, these can actually mimic those. Haha!
It's super cool.
Yeah.
Big brain.
Yeah, you should meet my dad. He's actually the smart one. And in case you're wondering, like how smart, like one of the things on his resume was space shuttle. Like he invented the system that allows it to stay up for like 3 weeks without requiring it to come back down. He developed the life support systems.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
He's the smart one. Still can't program his remote control. But like, as he was getting ready to retire, he had insomnia and actually saw like this National Geographic thing and on sea snakes and figured out how to create a fabric to desalinate water. And it's actually being used now, literally, it uses nanotubes. And you can actually Google it, like Lockheed Martin desalinization. And we're actually, like, they didn't patent it. So he took it and he literally just gave it away without patent. So people can now look at third world countries and stuff, you can literally use this thing to create potable water. Yeah, like I said, he's the smart one. Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. So,
I'll start at the end. Welcome, thanks guys, hello. Well, my name is Steve Staley. This is my first time at NecoCon. Maybe you heard me say that I got invited last year and I couldn't come. Thank you very much. It's great to be here at a big con to see everybody, and you know me as Neji or Toshiro. Some of you know me as Ippo, Koji, some other fan favorites. Who's been getting the love here? That game we did at Cup of Tea.
Shao and Code Geass?
Code Geass, wow. You were
Wow,
probably in
yeah.
that too.
I'm in that too, yeah.
And I've known David for a long time.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
done a lot in the SoCal corner of anime, as well as the voiceover world in terms of commercials, TV commercials, radio commercials, on camera in LA. There's a lot of what's called looping, ADR, another form of ADR for movies and TV shows. That's a great job for Dave Player contract on a movie or a TV show, putting in the voices of the people at a con. If the lead actors are in a conversation up here, you're adding in the atmosphere using your improvisational skills and so forth. All those are different income streams to make money in voice overs, and that's where I'm coming from here. And it's only been the last year and a half that I've been doing cons, mostly notable for the fact that it's jobs I did 20 years ago that are getting the attention. So a real mind F in a kind of a way, you know. Although these characters have never been dead for any of us, like have never gone away. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. That's awesome, Steve. Yeah, Steve and I have known each other for a long time. My name is David Vincent, and I am a voice actor based out of Los Angeles. And yeah, Steve, gee whiz, we were doing the Publix radio commercials back in the day. I no longer do that stuff, but yeah, Arlene. That was all I got at some point. But at any rate, yeah, so I've been in the anime world, in the video game world now for probably close to 15, 20 years. And you'll know me. Some of the fan favorites are Kento Nanami from Jujutsu Kaisen, Grim Zhao from Bleach. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. And then Martial Law from Tekken, which is one of my favorites because I was a Bruce Lee geek growing up. And she was Gilgamesh from the Fate series, Fate Stay Night. Awesome. Any Bungo Stray Dogs fans here? Yeah, Oda Sanosuke in that, and geez, just there's a ton more. But I'm super stoked to be here, and I just want to give a shout out to the good folks of NecoCon for inviting me back. I had been here probably about 7-8 years ago, and so super excited to be back here again and to get to enjoy this weekend with you guys, and just really appreciate the staff who has been very courteous. What I've realized is that I've gotten older, and I took a red-eye flight, and I used to be able to bounce back from red-eyes, not so much anymore, and so I was super grouchy when I got here, but now I'm smiling. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm excited to be here with you guys this weekend.
You've already introduced.
I was just say I think I've talked enough.
Excuse me, sir, that is all you can eat. Joke. Hi, guys. First NecoCon. My name is Stephanie Nadolny. I'm stumbling over my own name. How is that possible? It's weird. OG voices of Kid Goku from Dragon Ball and Gohan from Dragon Ball Z. Let's do this! Yeah! Also, a lot of you guys don't realize, also the voice of Isekai, I'm the queen. Nobody knows that because it sounds nothing like the others, which is good, right? Yeah, character voice acting came natural for me. I started doing voices and singing as the age of 3. Grew up with a lot of music in my family, not musicians per se, but lots of, we always had a good stereo, let me tell you. May not have had that much back then. Parents were very, very young parents. But they all loved music. So for whatever reason, my ear was tuned into that, and thankfully I could sing because I started singing in plays and community theater and musical theater and anything I could do that involved performing, drama classes, drama in school, choir, show choir, blah, 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 drill team, pom-pom. I had to do it all. I did move around a lot. That was not fun. I was always the new girl. Ever since I bought my house, I have not moved at all. I'm still there 24 years later. I got involved in my first band in right out of high school. There was a college band that had me sit in at a frat party, and I was just playing around, and they were like, "Hey, you want to join our band?" So I started rehearsing with them, and then quickly after was asked to audition for Vince Vance and the Valiants, featuring the vivacious vixens of rock and roll, Venus, Violet, and Victoria. And it was 50s through the 80s rock and roll show band. It's like Sean and On meets B-52. Started singing and performing with this show band. I think I wasn't even 20 yet. I jumped right on the road. We had a tour bus, and I got involved in the industry, in and out of traveling, and that's when I got into voice acting for Gemmy Toys, which is a company that just does kooky, crazy voices for the little toys you see, and you push their little hand, and they twirl around and start singing in various character voices. So I started doing that. I was literally like, I could be anywhere from 30 to 75 different voices in one session, which was really fun. It was like, it kept me on my toes, and I was a lot younger then, I could do it, you know? And then I got a audition for Chuck E. Cheese. I played Helen the Hen for 1 season. And then from there, I met Barry Watson at one of those sessions, recording for Brave Combo, the Grammy Award-winning polka band. He was a fan, and he asked me to audition for Dragon Ball Z. I had no idea what it was, had no idea what anime was. This was 1998. And then they had me voice what I thought was a good voice for a young boy. And after auditioning for only females, because like I said, I wasn't going in there looking to be a voice of a young boy, but they liked it, and I was cast as Gohan in the Ginyu Saga, took over from the Ocean dub, and that's the start of my anime career. And like David was saying, and Steve, that we did a lot of these voices that became some of your favorites 20, 25 years ago. So there's nostalgia. I'm like, why would they want me at a Comic-Con? I did this years and years ago. My characters grew up. Why do they want me? I'm old news.
You're still important. You're still important.
Thank you, because my fans, you guys are all my anime babies. I don't have children, and so let me be your mommy. Okay? I gotta have babies. I gotta nurture something now. Baby fever for life.
Legacy.
Yes, and my new news, and I won't talk much longer because we're on a time schedule here. I was just announced at the New York Comic Con 2 weeks ago that I will be voicing Goku Mini in Dragon Ball Daima. It has been 16 years since I have voiced anything Dragon Ball Z since my last video game. So I'm really excited to be back. Toei Animation in Japan made the choice, and the fans have spoken. Thank you. And so I'm back for Daima. It is released November 10th, 11th, and 12th at USA Cinemas. You can go to fathomevents.com to check it out. Get your tickets. It'll be the first airing of the first 3 episodes in the English. So the only ones out now are Japanese subtitles on Netflix. It will be on Netflix as well, and Crunchyroll. Really happy to be here. First time at NecoCon. First time doing any kind of an anime event in Virginia. My band played in Virginia Beach many times back when I was 19 and 20, I think. So it's good to be back in Virginia. It's been 30 years, so thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Okay.
I want to see these slides.
Okay, then let's get going. All right. I was gonna say, no, we're talking about all of acting. All right. So if you're just looking for animation, I was like, bear with me. We will eventually get to that, but we gotta talk about how we eventually get there. Okay. So what a lot of people don't realize is that voiceover as we know it started way back. I mean, even further back than what is on the slide. Because if you think about it, we had storytellers. And in order to properly tell a story, you had to be a good storyteller. That required voice acting. You had to be able to, to create these characters, make them believable, make them engaging. But as far as recorded history goes, when did all of this start? Well, they divided into a couple of different eras. And one of the first is the acoustic era. 1857 is the invention of the phone autograph. And that is the earliest known device for recording sound. Previous to this, physical contact, literally, how did we record sound? We used tracing, physical tracing. We literally would, take a tuning fork and put it on trace paper and let the vibration on carbon paper basically make a physical image, a tracing. That is how we recorded sound. We did not actually record any kind of sound waves. This changed that for us, and it opened the door. Sometime in the 1850s was the invention of the phonogram. And what that allowed us to do was to take stuff like what was recorded by the phone autograph and to take a look at the waveform patterns of those recorded sounds. It was the first time that sound could be translated into a visual medium. We actually got to look at the sine wave. And, we basically saw things and we were like, well, holy crap, that's what we sound like. And it was fascinating to us. Fast forward about 2 or 3 years, and we have what is arguably the first example of a voice-over recording. And that was recorded by Reginald Fessenden. It was the Au Clair de la Lune recording. Leon Scott sang the tune. For those who aren't familiar with it, it's literally just a song about the moon. That's it, it's a French song about the moon. You can actually find it if you go online and Google it. The quality of it is horrible because literally we're recording onto wax cylinders, and after about 170 years, surprisingly, those don't hold up all that well. As you can tell, this was relatively new to us, so we, as humans, did not quite know what to do with it, so we took very, very baby steps. So one of the next big achievements for us was literally somebody recording himself narrating the hours on the face of a clock.
Not kidding. It was considered to be the earliest voiceover recording until the discovery of that Au Clair de la Lune recording. Fast forward 22 years from there, we have the first weather broadcast. It's one of the first examples of a wireless voiceover using a radio signal. Fessenden was able to transmit the description of weather in a 1 mile radius. 1906, Fessenden again transmitted a live radio message. Basically did it on Christmas Day, 1906. Basically festive messages, biblical readings. This time he was able to broadcast it across a radius of 11 miles. It was heard by multiple ships and coastal stations. I know, baby steps. Now we're starting to take larger steps. 1926, British Broadcasting Corporation is formed. It was a decentralized group. A government group was originally formed. That didn't last long, so a more private, decentralized group decided to step in, and the idea was real simple. They saw the use of radio broadcasts and, more importantly, the ability to disseminate information via that method. More importantly, they also saw the need to properly do so. That same year, we have the first example of using audio and sound with an animation. The name of the animation is My Old Kentucky Home. It was produced by the Fleischer Brothers. Basically, it made audiovisual entertainment a reality, and that's what opened the door for voiceover in animation. It's what opened the door for all of us to do what we get to do. It had featured sound effects, song for the viewers. Basically, it had a sing-along song in the form of Follow the Bouncing Ball, and basically got the audience to sing along. You can find it. Some people were asking me to, if I would have put it in the slides, and my response was I would love to. However, it is wildly racist. So we're not going to do that. It is a product of its time, but nope. Okay, 2 years after that, Steamboat Willie. Yeah. That's first fully synchronized cartoon using voiceover and sound in recorded history. Voiceover was performed by Walt Disney himself. Used a phonofilm to translate analog sounds from the voiceover talent into electrical waveforms through the microphone. Basically, the electrical waveforms were directly printed onto the film, which allowed the sound waves to be played simultaneously with the picture. We are now going from the era of silent film to the talkies. Here's where it gets interesting for the four of us up here. 1929, a French movie called Applause by Robin Mamoulier. It's arguably the first known use of audio looping, which would eventually mature to become dubbing and eventually known as automated dialogue replacement. That's where it starts for us. I'll be talking a lot more about that in a Sunday panel because how they did it was absolutely fascinating. And basically they had this huge machine and some poor bastard in between trying to keep everything from not falling apart and trying not to kill himself from paper cuts. So now we've got ADR, we've got voiceover in, we've got voiceover in films, we've got voiceover in animation. Let's have some fun and start applying sound effects. Well, we started doing that in 1932 with Tarzan. This also signaled the arrival of multi-track audio and editing. Now we're starting to take even larger steps. Also, this marks the dawn of the golden age of animation within the United States. Happens in the 1930s. 1936, Mel Blanc. Enough said. Basically, that marks the beginning of the voice actor. And, the concept of someone who
gives life to an animated character.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if I have Harrison Ford walking down the street dressed as Indiana Jones, I have Harrison Ford. Why not? I cannot have a realistic version of Bugs Bunny walking down the street. Why? Because he's animated. It requires the actor, the voice actor, to bring him to life. It requires that combination of the animator and the voice actor. So, one of the big things here and why I include it is because Mel Blanc paved the way for a lot of the things that voice actors do, how we do it, but also a lot of the rights that we currently enjoy, such as the fact of, oh, I don't know, getting paid for our work. Hey, here's a lovely thing. I like to get credit for the stuff I do. We didn't used to. Mel was the one who championed it. Let's go forward 2 more years and let's have a huge milestone. Broadcast of War of the Worlds. Orson Welles' performance of H.G. Wells' novel Make the Age of Radio Dramas a reality. It, basically, it opened the idea of the radio broadcast not just as something for news, but also for entertainment. 1940s. Well, gee, what happened then that could have been important? Oh, I don't know. War. I hate to say it, I'm not a fan of war, even though I've worked for the U.S. government and for Lockheed Martin for a long, long time. But war brings about a lot of technological advances.
And medical.
And medical. And for voice acting as well. Radio news broadcasts, radio dramas. They became a crucial form of news and entertainment during World War II, especially in Britain, but also in the U.S. Being decentralized in nature. Remember I mentioned BBC was decentralized. Well, that made it really tough for German bombers to figure out where the hell to bomb us. So they couldn't stop the broadcast, which allowed the British population and the Allied forces to get daily news. Of course, the Axis also had radio, and they also had voiceover, and they used it to great effect too. They used it as a cornerstone of their propaganda. And hey, did the Allied forces do it? Well, of course they did. I have to give credit. They often did it with a sense of humor. Sefton Delmer is probably one of the best examples. He actually would broadcast as a Nazi, and as he was literally such an incompetent Nazi, basically such a hilarious caricature of a Nazi and a high-level ranking Nazi, that he earned a place in Hitler's Black Book. Basically, they sent people all over Europe and even sent spies into Britain to try to find him, abduct him, and bring him back so they could arrest him or kill him. I mean, that's kind of a badge of honor. Like, can you imagine being a voice actor and just be like, how good are you? I was so good that Hitler tried to kill me.
In the book.
Yeah, like and yeah. Okay, 1950s. Voiceover's now graduated from radio to the small screen. Television's become a thing. It's become popular. The United States is jumped in with both feet. Other countries followed suit. They're using a public service model. The U.S., yeah, we went the free market route because, well, yeah, we always do. This gave rise to TVCs, or as we call them, commercials. They often featured voiceover, and especially the use of recording tags, which now became a regular thing in commercials. And I apologize in advance for those. God knows I've done enough of them.
So it's your fault.
I wish I could take credit for them, but no. But to tell you just how useful they are, Dawes Butler. Younger folks may not remember this, but for the older folks, Parquet margarine. Butter. Okay, that was Dawes Butler. He did not record that all that often. They just kept using it. But because of the rules, they kept having to pay him the session fees and then the residuals. He had a huge horse farm just outside of LA. The name of the farm was Los Residuales. All because of the tag. 1960s. Dawn of the movie trailer. Widespread use of movie trailers didn't exist until the 1960s. It wasn't as big of a thing. You know, you'd see the poster art, and you would see stuff on, like billboard lettering. That's about it. That's why you'll see people who are collectors, spend like insane money because the artwork was so really well done, because that's how they marketed everything. 1960s, you notice that stuff started to go away. Why? Because it was cheaper to do a movie trailer. The concept of using them as a means of an advertising didn't exist either. Why? Because we didn't use them. So, what happened in 1960? What happened then? Well, somebody had the great idea of using writers and said, hey, you know what? If we wrote something and used these as a commercial and bridge the gap between a commercial and a movie, we can create a storytelling medium within just a minute and a half to 2 minutes as a way to bridge the gap between the commercial world and the cinematic world in order to mass market the films. And it worked. The best example of this is by a gentleman by the name of Don LaFontaine. Don was a writer. He wrote movie trailers. One day, the voice actor who was supposed to do the trailer didn't show. So they asked Don to get in the booth. Don got in the booth and he did the voiceover for the trailer. I think it was like the Heroes of Mesa Verde. It's the film where they're famous for, badges. We don't need no stinking badges. That's the film. And eventually, for more than 40 years, Don was the voice of Hollywood. He was the voice of movies. He was Mr. In a World. By the way, for those who are wondering, in his prime, this was a guy who would work from like 8 to like 11 or noon, Monday through Thursday. They literally, it was in his contract that they had to, the various studios hired a driver and a limo for him to drive him to the theaters, or to drive him to the studios to record. Eventually he had his own recording studio, and he further restricted his hours to those like 8 to 11. And in his prime, I think he was raking in like somewhere around 40 to 50 million for that. Yeah. By the way, I can tell you this from personal experience, you did not want this man ordering a pizza for you because they were gonna spit in it. Because in a world where a man craves a sausage pepperoni pizza, and it's like, oh God. Like he was, yeah. Like normally we talk about, having to bring the energy, and it's, bring extra energy because we can pull you back. Don was one of those guys where you had to hold on both hands and pull him back because he was just bigger than life. He was just one of the favorite people I've had the pleasure of meeting in my life. And that brings us up to like, the 70s, where we start to talk about the magnetic era. And at that point, I think we can all start to
Tape.
Yeah, we can tape and we can start, at that point, I think we can all start to fill in the blanks without requiring the slides. Because at that point, my hour ran up and I didn't have enough time to fill.
Brought us right into the present.
I'm sorry,
Seriously, you were able to pull that out of your butt in an hour.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, and the sad part is like almost all of this is from memory. I studied the history.
From memory?
Yeah.
Oh
I-
my god.
I'm a fountain of useless information.
That is in no way useless. Yeah.
But like this, like I can also talk to you about microphone history and all that too. Like I study the history of this because I love it.
Yeah.
I do, and knowing where we came from helps me to know where we, how we got here, where we are, and hopefully where we're going.
I understand perfectly. I know way too much about the history of our food industry. Way too much.
Oh god.
Nobody wants to know how the sausage is made.
That's actually far more safe.
If I may, you have taught me a lot more than my first ADR class in my master's degree class. That says a lot. That does. Thank you.
Now you could start charging.
Yeah.
Yeah, do this on like Coursera or
That's one thing. Like I've never tried. Like I get asked to do like workshops at Dragon Con and that, and I do them. I've never charged for any of this stuff.
You gotta put it in a book.
And it's actually one of those things that Don taught me. Because Don was one of my first mentors when I started on this journey. And he was like, if you ever find yourself in that position, he's like, you just pay it forward. And I was like, yeah, I was like, this is how I do it.
It all comes
Yeah,
back.
Yeah,
that's really
Don, I mean, Don was he was an awesome guy. He was just an awesome guy in general, but he was really good.
That's awesome.
I still wouldn't let him order a pizza for me.
I see someone with a question.
Yes.
Alright, well, not really anything, it's just, I missed the name of the person, what's the name of the voice actor that got into the first Black Book? I wanna remember that guy's name.
I'm sorry. Oh, Sefton.
Yeah.
Sefton Delmer.
Stephen Dillon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they actually, you can find recordings of his in the National Archives, both for the UK and also in the Library of Congress. And they are, without a doubt, hilarious. Make no mistake, they're a little racially insensitive because they are, like making fun of the German people. On the flip side, they're making fun of Nazis. Come on, so,
Yeah.
like, it's kind of like fair game.
Nobody's safe.
Yeah, no, it's like you brought this on yourself.
Yeah.
Where you earn this.
Yeah.
It sounds like a great idea for a feature film about that
Yeah.
guy.
I am amazed no one has done
That'd be
a
hell-
biography.
really cool.
Yeah.
Anybody? Anybody?
Maybe a video essay.
Actually, I'll have to talk to Bill Timoney about that because Bill's really. Do you know Bill?
I don't.
Okay, Bill Timoney. He's the guy who came up with All the Way, the Tony Award-winning Broadway show. But he's a voice actor like us. He does a lot of anime. He's in New York, but he would be the guy crazy enough to be like, oh yeah.
That's a great idea.
And like his best friend is Bryan Cranston, so like right there.
There's the money.
There you go.
Just tell me you want to make a film about Charlie Chaplin and asterisk all the other propagandists of World War II, and you can get him in there. It will say this to Charlie Chaplin.
Well, one of the biggest things that advanced ADR for us is World War II and the use of voice acting as propaganda. It really did, because it actually advanced the techniques that we utilize. In particular, the development of and refinement of the chase method, which had already been in existence since like the mid to late 30s, but also the use of the beep method. But the count method was the next version after chase, and then eventually the beat method.
Yeah. She know when to come in.
Yeah.
I'm prepped, ready.
Yep.
Oh, ready. I'm ready.
Yes.
So question, so based on the varied experiences you have, it feels like the aperture should be wide when you want to do voice acting, not try to do vertical slice directly animated. Would you agree?
Yeah. I live in Philadelphia. There's not a lot of anime there. But I have a studio and I do stuff, I do stuff for all over the place. Do I do a lot of anime? No. When I do anime, it's usually very small characters and they die very quickly. Why? Because I am in town for a very short period of time. But on the flip side, I get to do a lot of commercial work. I do a ton of industrial narration, and one of the big things there is, like if DuPont or GlaxoSmithKline, they're like, well, hey, we've got this really technical thing. Oh, hey, here's a crazy thought. Let's get the guy who's really good at voice acting and happens to be an engineer. Yeah, I wonder if he'll be half decent at it. Yeah, let's audition him and see what happens. Plus, I don't have, because I am, even though I am remote, the fact that I don't have to match a lip flap, it makes it a little bit easier for them. Even though the technology has gotten to the point where if I wanted to do an ADR session remotely, I can. I mean, I will tell you this, my studio is, my wife uses the phrase insane. and yeah, I will go with that. A friend of mine, his name is Fran Manzella. And Fran, unfortunately passed away during COVID. Fran had 2 Academy Awards for sound design, and he was like, hey, let's tear out the entire top floor of your house and turn it into a soundstage so you can do voice acting. And somehow my wife agreed to this.
I mean, if it works.
Let's just say when my wife wants jewelry or photography equipment or another dog, she gets it. But yeah, now moving forward from like the 1960s, we were using magnetic tape. And one of the big things that made this, voice acting, one of the big advantages here was, as stupid as it sounds, the ability to rewind.
Yep.
We didn't have to go through the whole reel. One of the other things, as we moved even forward, especially to like the late 70s, technology advanced to the 10-minute warning. I'm sorry, I'm on California time. I've got 2 hours, 50 minutes. Especially when we were dealing with ADR, is that we could slow things down to the point where we could do frame by frame. And that allowed us to line things up, especially for ADR, to match those lip flaps, to punch in our dialogue much more accurately. And if you study, anime or even live action dubbing, you notice a dramatic shift in the quality of the audio and the ADR from those periods, and that's one of the big reasons. You go to the 80s, especially the late 80s, into the 90s, you see that even further advanced, but then you start to see a subtle shift in the, occur. And what happens is we now have entered the digital age, where it's non-destructive. So we can start doing take after take after take without having to worry about damaging the media. And at that point, and new technologies start to come around, like Vocaline and WordFit, that help us to, in certain regards, if we're doing voiceover, to, more perfectly align things. And yeah. Yes?
So speaking of the evolution of voice acting, what are all of your takes on AI? Because a lot of people have been.
That's a whole nother animal.
And
That's a whole nother.
then it's like, well, it's the future. I'm like,
I'm willing to let you guys have first crack at it.
I haven't formulated a good enough public opinion. I mean, I would like it to be fair, I guess.
Nobody wants to have their jobs taken away and whatnot, but yeah.
Before he died, James Earl Jones sold his voice for AI use.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so have several other people. And that's okay, because they
Made the choice.
they had the choice. Not everyone does. And an ethical use of AI, great. The problem is that people are not always ethical. And we've already seen it where it's been abused, and abused heavily. Now, do I think there's use for AI in voiceover? Absolutely. Do I think that we have found that? Nope. To be fair, I'm an evil little cuss. And I tend to be, a little creative in the way I like to deal with chaos and mayhem and how I like to deal it out to people. So I actually help to figure out how to poison AI when it tries to scrape digital imagery.
And may you be blessed until you pass on this eventual earth.
I am currently working on a way of being able to do that when it tries to scrape audio. Because I don't like people who cheat.
Opposite of fair. No cheating allowed. We do the best we can.
I would really like to pay attention for when you get that wonderful little device out, wonderful little trick out. That would be a very lovely thing to study and figure out how to boost its potency.
Well, I was gonna say, it's one of those things where I didn't announce the first one. It got, with the team that I was working with, it got leaked accidentally, and we haven't announced anything else. And there's a reason, because we didn't want the people who were stealing stuff to know.
That's also a movie.
Yeah, but yeah, and it poisons the input, and causes the AI engine to just basically malfunction, so that it can't properly utilize the learning module.
The data.
Cool. Neato.
A final question for me, audio technician looking into voice acting in ADR, and feel free to answer this question if you can. When COVID came out and you guys had to do recordings, either in the safety of your homes or in the safety of your personal studios, whatever it entails to you, how did that work out? Like, if you had to do the recordings yourselves, if you had to do the editing yourselves, all that kind of good jazz, how did that work out for you guys? Knowing what we know now, based on that, like, how did you guys do the recording yourselves, or did you have to do any of the recording or editing yourselves, I guess I should say?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak a little bit about it. I was actually, I was directing a anime series when COVID hit, and I give so much credit to the engineers and the teams at the studios that came up with the solutions, because before COVID, it was absolutely just unheard of to try to do ADR or anime dubbing.
Unheard of.
Yeah, from
Not
home.
once, never.
Ever
not
considered
once.
it.
No one even talked about it. We
Yeah.
said, wouldn't it be cool if this was someday a job we didn't have to come in for?
Yeah. And that was just never an option. And so within the span of, I would say,
2 months,
2 or 3 weeks really for the show that I was on, they shut us down in the studios in March, and we were recording in April. We picked up and we
didn't really miss a beat other
I
than
would
that
say,
3-week period of
yeah,
time.
same. Within a 2-month period, they
Yep.
figured out their ways to do ADR. It mostly was you had to wait for actors to compile the shit that you had to get it all together and
The
build it up.
equipment,
We had our
the software and
ideas
everything.
figured out for how to make this work, which was a combination for the most part of like something like Source Connect and Zoom,
Yep.
even with lag, because you're still have the skill set of looking at the mouth and doing your thing. And once everybody got the equipment, I felt like we were back up and running as per usual.
Yeah.
Just that we had to stop a lot for gardening. A lot. Dogs,
So true.
dogs
Dogs
second.
barking.
Yeah.
My toddler at the time crying.
Yeah,
those
kids
types of
third.
things. Yeah.
Kids
So like,
third.
yeah, but it was mind blowing how fast the industry adapted.
And in a good way too. It's nice
Yeah.
to have the option if you can't drive over somewhere for a 2-line pickup.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a massive difference.
So they were forced by necessity to figure it out, which is what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the technology existed.
Yeah.
And it had for a while. Source Connect had been around since like 2010. But the techniques and changing the mindset,
Big time.
that required effort.
And actors had to go by acceptable.
And that was, yeah, and
It
that,
has to all match
Like, I
up.
had
too.
to
yeah,
upgrade.
everything-
The
yeah.
sound,
It's-
the compression, there's a whole process there that has to make it fit. And thankfully, I have a technical director in my own home, Dan Bradford, my bass player, and everything else. And he and I are two puzzle pieces. He does all of this technology stuff. We go out and we buy the equipment and then we set it up. He's worked in radio for 25 years. He's been a musician, so I got lucky there.
Lucky.
Well, and he's really handsome too. So we have a dog. We have a little boy in a dog suit. So that's what I do now. I do and should sit my butt down and learn. I've kind of watched him do it, and I know I'm capable of it. But it's going to take effort and time. And but whenever I need anything done, that's his job. So I just do the voice acting and the singing and the entertainment part of it. So
yeah, I mean, for me, it was just, they're like, well, we need this. And I was like,
Ready.
yeah, welcome to 2005. Let's do it.
funny.
I mean, one of the funniest things for me was I had one studio that was that asked me for a particular. They're like, well, we use this. What was it? It was like, oh God, I forget the name of the preamp. But I was like, yeah, dude, like I have, and it's basically a reissue of a Neve mixing board. I was like, I have the original mixing board sitting right here,
Mac.
yeah.
Nice.
and they're just like, oh. I was like, okay. I was like, yeah. They're like, anything else? They're like, yeah. Do you have a TLM 103? I was like, I got 4 of them. Like, let's do it. Yeah, it's a microphone.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a microphone.
So we're gonna call that the last question. We're running a little bit over. Are y'all all gonna go back to your tables?
Yeah.